say broadly defined what here we are talking about entire horizontals and verticals, right, across the industry. So what is context for this topic? Right, most of the organization, if you see, they're all doing what they have been doing very well. They have been proud, some of the companies like Wipro 1945, it started as Western India products, and the Tatas have been more than 100 years. They built a strong foundation, and there are many such companies, both internationally and locally as well. So all of them are proud. They have a proud heritage. They have a history, right? Of course, they all want to do much, achieve mission and vision, and they keep setting goals every year. In fact, every quarter, at least the IT companies set, right? And similarly, even the education institutions as well. I'm sure you all know you want to provide quality educations to the students, align with the newly formed national education policies, right? Quality education is the way to go, and everybody's excited, optimistic. And how do we be relevant? But more important is about organization behavior, how we set the values, the ethics, workplace etiquettes. See, these are all not just few superficial words. This is something we have to practice every day. And some of the things we can start, even a fresher student who's going to be completing post-graduation, MBA, BBA, whatever graduation they're going through, we can inculcate them so that they understand when they reach to organizations, or it could be with their own entrepreneurs, startup companies, how they are going to imbibe the values, ethics, and then what are the habits actually. See, finally, this is like a bottom-up approach. We can write books, we can refer to books, we can see the organization change, organization design, all that. But fundamentally, if we really want to achieve organization growth, it is about how do we change our habits. So values and habits is going to drive the organization culture. So the mindset of every company, every is going to have a purposeful. It has to be purposeful, and it should create a winning mindset for individuals. It could be group of team members or group of functions, and eventually the organization. I will talk little bit of Wipro because I'll take pride. I'll just spend 5 to almost 10-15 minutes. Just why I'm talking about my own companies. How are we going to use this? How are we using our culture, values? How are we treating our customers? I thought so it'll be. So I think we see our own leader, right? How has it started with humbly. Mr. Azim Premji, all of us know, is very well known. How much of philanthropic. See, again, when it comes to organization values, ethics, the governance, the lot of things he has put the stepping stone. Likewise, all companies, you might have other companies as well, their own leaders. For us, if you see, we are very proud of Mr. Premji, what he has done for the economic ownership. He has contributed to the social community and some of the caring, sustainable projects. I think everybody knows a little bit of Wipro. It started as Western India Products and as an edible oil company. And then we eventually went through IT. More of initially we started as R&D, research and development, and then we moved to mainstream IT. And today we are calling ourselves as a digital, one of the top 3 companies in India, Indian-based global companies. But what is more important in the DNA of all our 2.2 lakhs employees today? We are spread across 70 countries, right? And you can go on mute, please. Somebody is. Hello. Yeah. So what are the values is very important. This is where it sets the scene. And how are we looking at each of these? I'll just very quickly give examples. Be passionate about client success. Today, if customers are not, we are not literally not there in the business. I think we understand how much we have to be when we say we meet the deadline, deliverables, commitment, And then we are also looking at customers, right? The partnership, some of our customers have been with us for more than 3 decades. Even in during this COVID times, it's very important to understand that we empathize. Some of the customers are not doing much. I mean, due to the circumstances, right? So it is not that we are going to disown them, or it's not about that. We will ensure that we'll continue the partnership and then make them successful. How we are treating each other with respect. Today we are talking about not only diversity, about women and other stuff, we are also including differently abled, visually challenged, and then LGBT community, lesbian, gay, transgender, I think bisexual, those sort of community we are, it's going to be an inclusive, so that anyway last 10 years we are putting at. So in the nutshell, it's about how do we treat, it's not about hierarchy, it's not about band, it's not about position. When we come on projects, programs, each of us has to be treated with respect, like how we have to be treated as well. It's not about just the employees, we also have contractors, stakeholders, external suppliers, vendors, right? All the other agencies, government bodies, right? So everybody has to be treated with, that is a fundamental value proposition we have to take forward. How are we going to be global and responsible? See, again, this is not a motherhood buzzwords, but we have to show and tell how we are being. For example, how do we reduce carbon footprint? How do we use IT for green, green for IT? If you come to our campuses, wonderful. You can see how we use, reuse, recycle. So we are playing our part. Even we have won many awards in this on the sustainability and the global reach. Like I said, we are now in 70 countries, almost 4,000 cities we operate. And the last one is how very, very important for all of us, unyielding integrity in everything we do. I think there is no shades of gray when it comes to truth, right? So whatever we say, do, or the way we are going to behave, how do we build everything is going to be with integrity. For example, I have seen in my organization so many people getting fired, probably because of fake bills, or could be manipulating. It could be harassment. I mean, it happens in all companies, right? But we do take it very seriously. Especially, these are some of the things we need to teach or put across to our students as well, because in terms of background verification, the documentation, all this is much seen when it comes on when we do ramp up of employees, right? So unyielding integrity in everything we do. It is not that it's like we have to stop the car in red light. It's not about whether anybody's seeing or I can sneak past the red light. It is when we have a red light, yes, we respect. Otherwise, either we get killed or we kill somebody. So that is the aspect, baseline of all the values, and little bit of how we are also promoting equality in terms of, like I said, today we are very proud that 36% of our women employees. When I joined in 2006, we were only 9%. It's so much of we have achieved. We do recruitment drives. Again, we have also have 135 nationalities working here. And if you really see the entire about not only Wipro, the other organizations, how they help with government responding to COVID. We cooked 40,000 meals twice a day from 2 canteens, almost 2 months, those difficult times, lockdown, right? It is not just monetary, but physically we had volunteers. It was very tough time. I think most of the companies did their bit, and the more important is about business responsibility. Like I said, social responsibility. Of course, with government mandated, with CSR funds, all that, but over and beyond, Wipro has taken a lead. Not only now, Mission 10X for training faculties. I'm sure some of you would have gone through that, uh, and it's continuing those sort of programs. right? And also with Azim Premji University, his vision is to improve the value of trainers, educators, and we are very proud to say that world's most ethical companies, almost this is the 10th year in succession. So that really holds very high. So that is the precursor of what I'm going to speak for next 1 hour, 1.5 hours. How do we set the baseline? What are the habits, culture, and other stuff? So just to continue, few things, good work, how we look at ecology, sustainability, and how we own up everything. It is not just the way we are all right from the induction. We have been exposed to projects. Some of us also take voluntary in on the weekends, supporting the community. Right, so many schools we are supporting, and the very important thing is how do we shape policies with engaging with government, NGOs, and industry networks. Okay, so the awards and accolades, what we got, like I said, there are plenty. It's just a few of them here. I'm sure again, like this, all companies will have doing their best. So it's just, yes, I'm just focusing on Wipro, but if you really see, every company has got, for example, ITC, they have turned around what used to be a smoking. Today they're focusing on well-being. A lot of good products related to food, nourishment, like that. Everybody is doing their bit, including airlines. They're looking at how do we lower the carbon footprint. Are we looking at electric sort of vehicles or planes in the future? So you will see this sort of things in next decade or so. The just to again little bit how what it makes the work culture, right? Whether ethics and etiquettes, it's about credentials, it's about references. In terms of we do a good job and we will get definitely. So it's easy to it's very difficult to even acquire new customer because we have to have references. That means we have proven delivery, right, to the customer satisfaction, and how our DNA is all about on ethics. So this is very fundamental. And then how do we work with commitment? So this is all again coming back to responsibility, responsiveness, and how we honor our commitments. And the other culture of innovations, our own intellectual property. So all this makes organization exciting. Otherwise, it won't be, it'll be a dull, it'll be only on profit basis. It'll be, there will be no governance, and then things will fall off, and nobody is there accountability, right? So that's why the fabric of entire ethics, governance, values, habits is tightly knitted. Okay, some of the things I think all companies are go through, just to show you a few things about risk managing. There's something called ombuds. I'm sure everybody has got even in colleges. Is something if there is grievances to be met, if there is a sexual harassment act, posh committees, or it could be I think it's strongly implemented is anti-ragging in colleges. We have seen it's very worked very effectively. No nonsense in that area. So Ombuds is another, I think more everybody has set it up, right? There is also audits and compliances and reporting standards. So this, it's a little bit of summation of how governance happens, right? Of course, there are certain times which things have not gone, but now with all this sublime crisis in US banks, within India, few banks and few organizations had a little bit of hiccups, but now things are on the thing, right? Rigid framework, tight framework, so that it gives that element of trust to the investors and to customers and for all the employees as well. So I'm just now coming back to basic organization behavior, because this will set into future topics like I talked about values and culture and habits. So it's about how one acts or conducts, especially towards others. This is very important. Like I said, respect each other is another behavior strongly. And then in OB, I think we have so much of books and so much of studies being done. A lot of faculties have got PhDs. They've looked at a very micro level, what is expected. In the end, how do we achieve the goals and visions and mission, the roadmap of the company, right? The behavior actually is expected behavior, and how do we handle individual groups and organization resource, and the knowledge of behavior helps to achieve. So very, you will see certain organizations straight away, right? Quality behavior. Somebody, Toyotas and Honda company, they look at zero defects. Or some product companies. Today we have Amazon, Google's, Facebook of the world. They're looking at how we can ensure that there is no flaws in the product they roll out, right? So this is how the behavior actually in certain organizations straight away you can see, you can get validated. So I'm just giving a textbook references here. It's about understanding prediction and control of human behavior. And then important is about how do we look at people, structure, and technology and environment. So very important about human capital today, because information and human capital are the two things which is actually driving everything. How do we put the structure in place? For example, for example, if you are in supply chain, it will be very governed, in terms of vendor assessment. Is there any, in terms of we will assess the vendors, including us as well, whether we are paying on time, whether our structure, accounts payable, accounts receivable, the payment is also made in time, right? How do we enable technology in terms of if there is any information leakage, cyber security, or we have so much of trust within our customers, our documents, our confidential information, we have to protect them, right? We have seen in the past so many scenarios in BPO or BPS, business process services, the data has been leaked, and some of the numbers are being shared to other things. So those sort of things, definitely with stringent firewall and all the security access is controlled. And the environment has to be conducive. It should not be very retaliatory or vengeful. In some cases, you do have unions. It has to be a collaborative approach, right? To have that safe environment as well for women employees. For example, they work on shifts, and these are some of the things. Again, I think we went through in the change management. I just wanted to keep the broad definition of change, and then structural dimensions. I'm not going to spend time on this, but I will just keep it here so that we need that flow, how we structure the entire organization. Okay, so I think last session we did talk about the change. See, this is where suddenly some companies go through, especially during merger and acquisitions, or if you are acquired, or if could be even acquisitions or merger, that there are going to be some change management, how we are going to be looking at behavioral aspects. For example, we at Wipro, we are also going through our reinforcing the key habits, cultural, it's not that we have matured and established, but there are certain things we want to get new with millennials coming on board. We have to understand their aspirations, right? And we have to modify accordingly. So that change management related to people is very important aspect. In terms of what set of best practices, what are the levers? See, it is not just about profit, revenue, customer sat, right? Decreasing operating expenses, but much beyond that. And how success in definition? Is it success measured through customers' eyes or employees or stakeholders or anybody? Now, how are we defining success? So far, so good. Can I get a voice? We're going to have some interaction, but so far, are you able to hear clearly, ma'am, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So considering cultural change, this is very, some of the organization I've seen, even startups also are looking at it because, startups, they're very busy, they're in an entrepreneurial mindset, but slowly when they get a lot of funding and they go, into the next level, they're looking at how do we get to maybe the cultural change. How do we lead others, lead ourselves, manage ourselves? These are very important aspects. So I just want to hear from you, what is culture from your, if I can get some interaction on this. What is culture? Anybody can unmute this. What is culture or culture, organization culture? Yeah.
Good morning,
Hello,
sir.
sir. Am I
A
audible?
different.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Culture is a set of habits
Mm-hmm.
employed by organization for productivity and performance.
Very good. I think great. So that is very important. Yes, we would like to hear from others as well.
Good morning, sir.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
we can define culture how the people are mingling along with each other and how they are trying to adjust with each other.
Yes. So this more in terms of more about teamwork, collaboration. It's about respecting each other's decision. It's about working towards common objective. Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. Yes,
Sir,
ma'am. Sir, anybody else?
sir,
Uh,
could you hear me, sir?
yes, yes, ma'am.
Sir, shared beliefs and values of the entire organizations are termed as organizational culture.
Yes, very good. It's very important to understand the shared beliefs that we have a common objective, we have a common goal. How do we work together? That is where most difficult part, though we can say in few lines, but imagine if you are each of us as we are heading our own functions, then we are making our own, profit and loss statements in our own function. Then we have to not only then there'll be a competition even within our own company, right? So it's very important to understand. Yes, good, ma'am. Anybody else? Sir, your definition of culture and some of you must have done a lot of good work in this area. So just to move on, it's about a catalyst. It's about enabling growth mindset. It is about beliefs, behaviors, actions, symbols, customer myths. It's a very fundamental, definition. It's about people having subculture, means common situation, functions around their own interpretation of the dominant. For example, if you see in a large organization, you have HR, finance, marketing, supply chain, all those sort of functions. But if you really see finance, they have their own culture. Sometimes they are very closed as well, right? They will not be open up to. But if they work with HR team, on a transparent open culture, then at least it'll be a good way because they will drive into a company. Otherwise they'll all be working in silos. The most sometimes it happens, right? Finance, they have their own agenda, HR will have their own agenda, then you have marketing team, right? You have sales. So understanding that, that we have to understand that organization have subcultures, but all of them, we cannot let them operate in silos. They have to work towards um, common objectives. So just here a little bit dashboard here. It's a different, it gives about, finally it is about habits as well. So we will see by the end of session how bottom up approach, that is The habits drive the values and culture. So I'm just going to spend some more time of culture so that we will understand. So it, like already we talked about, it creates a team environment, right? Yale State University president talks about this, and then Gartner was the advisory. They talk about a set of behavioral norms and unwritten rules that shape the organization environment and how individuals interact and get work done. And especially in large organization, sometimes it could be even government organization, private organization. It's going to be very tough, to adapt to firstly design policies, implement, execute work, right? How much, for example, if I have to, in my sales, pre-sales role, when we were bidding for projects, say $1-2 billion project, at least I may have to interact at least minimum 1,000 people. It could be individuals, teams. How do I put that value proposition, a good proposal, sales proposal to the customer? Because yes, we have RFPs, we respond, uh, and compliance is required, and it has to be transparent. We cannot fudge data. If somebody is asking, give me this data. So it is about working, and Gartner has really talked about the norms. So why talk about culture? Yeah, it's about people pull together. It's about people. It's about webs of tacit understanding. Tells us how to pursue. That is very important. Sometimes it could have a negative impact as well, right? Because again, comes back to leadership. If they create that environment, then the negativity will continuously be there. But most of the times we need to look at how, that is where the bottom line is. It depends on the leadership here. We will talk more on that actually. So why culture is essential to build? It's very important that, simplest of things. It's actually because people are involved. It is not a complex thing. It's nothing like a mathematical statistical formula that way we are going to behave. So if we have saying respectful, responsive, trustworthy, integrity, these are all not complex things. Why are we making it as if culture is so difficult? So these are some of the things that we carry from our own childhood. Our parents have given that. Our organized schools and organizations have given that. Our mentors, all of us have mentors, right? We go and see, and then we build that to the organization. Just again, a fundamental, I'm just keeping this so it will drive to the habits. So it's about values, mindsets, and practice, the way we think. I'm going to give few examples in the next slide. And then these are again continuing with the Gartner's, what are the values, right? So if you really see any mission statements, right, or even mission and vision will always have these power words, right? Because it is not about technology. It is not about we are going to transform the world. It is not about artificial intelligence, machine learning, nothing like that. It's very fundamental. That's why you see, if I actually visit education institution, I see wonderfully written, some colleges, they could lead on other leaders, but I've seen they've really articulated, how do I provide quality, how do I ensure the students serve the community, right? So this all etched around the values, and it's viewed sometimes as a barrier too because of mindsets. Sometimes the leaders often feel nothing can be done culture because they accept this is how it is, right? This is how the way it's going to be, and they'll continue. In fact, to be honest, there might be somebody who's joined the organization and 30-35 years will go away and feel nothing, maybe accept it for way it is. The person was not able to change anything, right? But it starts from addressing behaviors, right? That is the main thing we are talking about here. So how are we looking at the behavior in terms of unwritten rules? See, sometimes from HR perspective, there are so many rules. We write policies. In fact, we have the best policies in terms of HR. But there are certain things, if somebody says ethically you have to work 9.5 hours, even during remote or hybrid, it is expected that, of course, you need a bio break, you have family, extended family. Sometimes you have to do dual roles, working mothers, all that is fine. But if it's expected that you're going to be productive at least 8 hours, it is there, right? Nobody says, no, no, you have to write. But we as an individual should take that, give our best. Uh, Maybe in some cases we will finish the deliverables. What was estimated 5 hours, you might estimate 5 hours and must deliver. You may be delivering in 3 hours. You still have the 2 hours. It is not necessary you have to lock yourself, but the 2 hours could be spent self-development or supporting other, developers, co-workers, or supporting your leaders as well, or providing input. There are other ways, right? We can. So that is what is expected, and our beliefs and assumptions. Culture is what keeps us working together, belonging, sharing. I think we talked, ma'am, she talked about teamwork, collaboration. How do we, not only that today, in terms of scaling, because the team size might grow big, we have to maintain the same cultural thing, that just because companies go big, we cannot forget, right? And ambition, motivation, these are all HR, how we keep the employees, how do we motivate them, timely rewards and recognition, empathy, support, wellness, if their family is in trouble. Just yesterday, I got my colleague's brother died of COVID. I thought COVID was almost done and gone, but it was happened a few days back. It's so shocking, right? How do we look at providing support to that family, right? So what are the habits? How do we resist? I would also want to hear from you, apart from this, anything else? I mean, you would have experience from other organizations, from colleges, institutions, or some of you must have worked in organization, being now educator, or some of you are doing both, working and educating. Any other examples around this?
Sir, culture keeps on changing a little bit as
Mhm.
per the requirement of time.
Yes, fantastic, wonderful point. In fact, I'm going to write it down also, because it's a good talking point. Culture can be changing as well. The reason is, yes, sometimes, but without compromising on the fundamentals, right? Values. Like,
Yes,
for
sir.
example, digital adoption is a big cultural thing, right?
From home, that is also a change.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, good point. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So basically, climate, when climate changes into culture, that's important because
Yes.
climate is never existing in the organization. That is for the temporary phase. When it changed into culture, so
Yes,
that change is important. Whether when people are accepting that culture, they are not resisting.
exactly. And
Thank you, sir.
yeah, especially when it happens during acquisition, merger and acquisition, or sometimes even during hostile takeovers also, right? You have seen some companies due to so many reasons, but the other company employees may not accept. So because they might be being bullied, or is it because of muscle power, right? So yes, the entire climatic conditions of the what we call, if you say dipstick into that organization, there might be so many factors. Yes, very good points. Anybody else can give any other examples from your thing? Okay, so I will just continue in the interest of time. Some of the levers we have to understand. Okay, this is again coming back to, for example, in HR area, how are we looking at some of the levers of getting the right? See, at the time of recruitment, why do we ask the freshers or even laterals? about what you know about Wipro, Tata, or could be HCL, any company, Infosys. What is the culture? Do you understand? Especially large companies, consulting companies, they do ask this question: what do you know about? Right. So we also see, for example, we want to be friendly to diversity, very important aspect. So people feel safe to work in our organization, right? We give our best to accommodate. See, today, even this online thing, the people are now asking for flexible, right? Work anywhere, any place. Maybe they all gone back to tier two, tier three safely, working with one thing with their parents, extended families. So are we providing that, or the organizations are giving that rewards and recognition, right? Are they giving talent uh, upgrading, new upskilling and cross skilling and other stuff? So we have to look at each of the aspects here, what sort of governance decisions are being made at appropriate authorities, and how do we look at metrics in terms of performance, right? The leadership and all of this aspect, the capacity for change, that is very important. Sometimes changes might have had past success. There is no guarantee it will have a future as well, unless it is gone through proper change management, right? Unless we have governance, communication, training, and like ma'am said, that there might be resistance, right? So all these are cultural levers, and just from the HR perspective, we deal with so many every day. Today it's about multi-generational workforce. Somebody who was born this century, 2000, 2001, they're already started working, right? They are 20 years, and then most of the companies have absorbed them, right? Then you in some part of the world, a 20-year-old is also working alongside with 80-year-old. Imagine there is span of multi-generational workforce, right? Ethical practices. How are we looking at sensitivity? Bad behaviors will further diminish. I think that will be called out very early. Any forms of harassment or unconscious biases, it will be now looked into seriously. And other important aspect is about gender inclusivity and tolerance for apathy. And then working mothers. There are so many things when we talk about. See, for example, there are some companies, even Toyota, which is a few across India, in Bangalore, I heard they're going to have 40% of their employees to be women maybe in next 5 years. Already they have 10%. They're going to increase. So they're going to have that culture of, and if you see Ola scooters in Hosur, around just outside of Bangalore, almost they say 10,000 women are working. So look at imagine the culture of the company encouraging women around tier two city and bringing them to work, right? So that is the one of the cultural aspects that organizations are driving forward. So a lot of things have changed, how we live, how we work. For example, it's more about purposeful. How are we spending time? It is not about pension. We have come, we have got our pay packet, and then we retire, and then we get our handsome pension, PFs and all. No, today we are looking at organizations. How are we leading a purposeful life? Contributing to the organization, community, citizens, right? And we are, our days were there when we used to have good bosses, right? But today we are looking at great colleagues, because that is where we learn and treat each other with respect and other stuff, right? And if you all see the time now, 9 to 5, it's not about whenever, right? Some gig work today people have taken. Gig work is part-time economy, passion economy, and that doesn't have any time. On a weekend, somebody can go for a wedding shoot. That person is a photographer of that she or he might be a model. They might want to work in glamour or whatever of their interest and choice, right? And then the way office is going to be wherever now. I think that is very evident during last 18 months, right? And so just again, little bit on culture before I deep dive into habits. The shared, taken for granted, implicit assumptions, right? How it pursues, how it reacts to environment. So again, I'm just extending a little bit here and slowly coming back how habits are going to play an important role, right? Some of them are very visible, some of them are unsaid, some of them are invisible, right? Uh, Bottom line is culture has got deep influence on people and thus a organization. So it's like two sides of coin, right? One side we are looking at culture, the other one is brand. That's why you see most of the companies, you go to their website. I always encourage students before this go for interviews, spend time at least 1 hour to know about the organization, because the set of things they know, they're going to be working with the quality of people, the leadership team, the ethics and all that. Okay, so I think we have talked enough of this organization culture, about decision making, educating clients, potential customers, and help with recruiting and building a great team. So how do we embed is through formal statements, like I talked about mission, vision. We use physical space sometimes, that aura. If I walk into, for example, Google, I have visited few times. They have a different aura of working. They attract the millennials, very informal. I mean, in some part of the world, they can bring their pets. They can everything in terms of food and so this is how you're going to embed, give them rewards, titles, promotion criterias, make it as a place where they can talk about as stories. And then how do we set the process, workflow, all this, everything it associates from recruitment, selection, and like I said, hire to retire, the end-to-end process. Okay, now this real stuff is coming to the habits part. Okay, so very important to understand how we are looking at some of the aspects. Efficient, process oriented, innovative, and ethical. Is there anything I can hear from you outside of this? Uh, you know, you can treat
Sir,
this as, yes, ma'am.
what MNCs, multinational companies where people from different nations with different culture come together and work? Will
Yes.
you elaborate on that a little?
Sure, ma'am. I will talk about that. I will give you. So anyway, I will give on that. In terms of very good point, you got it up. Firstly, about understanding cross culture. Okay, the term for us, like we said, when I said we work in 70 countries, we work with local nationalities. Firstly, our laws of land applies. See, when we draw up legal documents, when we start working with suppliers, vendors, partners, customers, our statement of work always stand with the local laws. So though our company is Indian based, headquarters in Sajapur, Bangalore, but we have our offices everywhere. So the very important thing is we have cross-culture simulation. We have training. In fact, during the induction, we have plenty of videos. We talk about, for example, I was in Australia many years, so I have to. I went through a lot of training myself, both Indian culture and some of the things. Yes, obvious, I'm an Indian, but still, if I have to do a train the trainer, I have to understand, right? Similarly, like I'm talking about projects bottom up. Every project will go through this cross-culture simulation. For example, we have something called onboarding. Say, for example, people travel on site. So on-site readiness program. So there will be some element of cross-culture where within that, we talk about relationship building, food, habit, norms, weather, dress sense, the way we're going to communicate that. I mean, there's some of the even some of the jargons, synonyms, acronyms, right? It's all slightly different in each country. So all that will be given to our engineers fresh. Some of them would have traveled, the laterals, they would have traveled at least 5, 10 countries. There's not an issue, but at least somebody who's going fresher, first time, even to extent of coaching in the interview visa process. Because sometimes, if you don't get the right, the visa officer will reject you. Because if you don't know what sort of visa classification you have applied, and they ask you during the interview, and if you're giving a wrong, that will have an impact on the visa as well. So we give a lot of training, handhold, and a lot of things. For example, I think we all in MBA also we have that, right? International HRM, cross culture. For example, onboarding training. A Korean company going to a Japanese company, the amount of languages, at least 2 to 3 months, a basic novice level. I mean, today one good thing is technology is playing, because a lot of things can be now through an app. Otherwise, we have to visit instructor-based learning. But today, of course, with online also, we have plenty of trainers teaching foreign languages, right? So other one, and then any large program projects, before we start, we sometimes have offsite where all the team members go away for 2 days. That bonding, we will have some experiential learning, and then so that is where we start on the good note. And then there are so many other things, when even customers come to India, first it's not about us, about we always talk about our country, how proud we are as a culture. We have a long history. India's a very vast country, and our presentations start with that, and how we contribute to the growth, not only to India, to the global growth. Ma'am, is there anything else? I think I covered that in terms of cross culture.
Thank
Yeah. And any other things you heard of it, you're open to share if I missed out anything. And then there is some on-site rotation, off-site. People come from expats. They come here. I've seen within, it could be captive organization, it could be banks, it could be financial institutions, even learning, education learning also. I've seen so many professors have literally come and parked in India, or our professors have gone all over the world. They have gone of postdoctoral studies. So a lot of in each area, especially in healthcare, pharma, I've seen a lot of people in Bangalore alone. I've seen so many of expats. They are all settled. Some of them settled for almost 10, 15, 20 years. They have become part of the thing. Okay. So coming back here, these are some of the habits. I'll just go through each of them. Why we need values, habits, roles? What are the definitions? Right? This is very fundamental to understand. It's about fundamental beliefs. It's about moral compass, right? That connects us with our past and guides us to the future. That's why you see in any presentation, customers also presenting us, they talk about their glorious past, and then they talk about what is their vision for the future. They are strongly binded by their values, right? Whereas habits are actually values in action. It is not just saying that these are the values, but how do we do? What is the action? Show and tell. Every moment and how do we live in each moment is what the habits, they come together. And the culture is outcome. It's actually values, habits form the culture. So this is the just a simple formula. If you really want to put it in a nutshell, how. So here definitely we will go a little bit on habits, right? We talked about culture, and organization values is about how do we, guide everything we do? How do we inspire employees? How do we articulate values to the? Finally, it is all about building a positive culture, and it is should be a place to go, right? Everybody today, even whether it's multi-generational, millennials, like everybody has to have that thing. Okay, for me, this is the best place. Some people love defense, some people love government organization, right? So all of them, they have to build that positive culture when they join. So now this is where the real meat about the whole topic is about habits. The reason I delved is suddenly if I just put habits as one thing, it's not going to make sense. So here we are talking about 40 to 45% what humans do is habit. Sometimes we do without given much thought because we know we get up at certain time, we go to class, you deliver classes between whatever 40 minutes, and then we have exams, standard, run of the mill, which we do consciously or unconsciously. And there are certain things. How do we master our habits, right? And habits are normal and natural for in achieving effectiveness. Yes. See, for example, we all join on time, right? 8:55, we're expected 9 o'clock class. This is something you will always be proud. You will tell your students, look, I am an example for being on time, right? So show and tell. So what does it do? What does habits got to do with organization culture? That is very important to understand that the Q, Charles Duhigg is talking about three things: Q, routine and reward. Q is about how do we trigger that habit. It can be a time of day, a person, place, thing, feeling, or even a song, right? Something that triggers. Right, today everybody says good morning in WhatsApp, we all get up, right? Then there is a routine also. After that, everything falls in a sequence, right? I'm sure some of you had breakfast before, maybe now do as you are listening. There is a sequence of things you are going to do. And the reward is what your brain gains with that routine. Doesn't have to be anything physical. A reward for a brain can be just good feeling as well. Okay, today I had a very good news. Whatever, your family members, some achievement, progression, promotion, something it has come. That is another, way of looking at what are the triggers. So each of us, sometimes we can also help identify our bad habits as well. Okay, so I'm just going to show you here why it's very important, why habits are important. It is the right thing to do always. See, sometimes if you are a person of integrity, honesty, that is one, it is glaringly visible with where you're going to work with your team, with your customers, right? And if you are going to have more of inclusive and cohesive, build trust and camaraderie among us, of course, every organization will look into that growth mindset, right? And teams emulate leaders who walk the talk. This is the bottom line. For example, if leaders live by the habits every day, you yourself have seen, some of you must be now 20 years, 30 years, or 10, maybe some of you just started your educators journey, or some of you have worked in the past, but you all have a leader where you've seen, leaders should be the most visible examples of culture. Can I hear few examples from you without just make it a generic from your examples? You would have emulated, means you would have followed certain leaders, and can you give some examples here? Even for the benefit, we can listen to others. I will also talk about my own, where I have emulated a few leaders, which has stuck it with me forever. Can I get some interaction? Hello? Anybody you can think about? I mean, he or she has created that real, so that you are still following. Yes. Shailaja ma'am, somebody is on. Yeah, anybody else can. Hello. Can, can anybody give examples? Can you go on mute, please? Yeah. So, okay, please, any interaction on this? Your leaders, your favorite leaders, where you had, so they were role models.
Sir, good morning. This is Shruti here.
Yes.
No such, regular practices, but I have read the book of Stephen R. Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes, ma'am. Fantastic.
Yeah. So in that they say that it's in being proactive. So you need to be proactive. Nobody will give a push for you. So that is one habit where each individual has to inculcate.
Fantastic.
That is what
Great.
I say.
Great example. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Anybody else, please? They can refer to any books also. If you have, please share it to our team. Okay, so I'll just move ahead. I think, like I said, leaders show commitment to change. It sends a strong signals to teams, how they become role models for teams to embrace change. They have to identify at least 5 to 6 habits to inculcate a growth mindset, right? What they talk, what they walk is very important, right? The leaders is about, they have to live with these habits every day, whether I'm connected, disconnected, whether I'm on off day, weekends, right? So you have to have a consistent. It is not just because I have to, put up a show that I have to live with this for temporarily, but you have to have a consistent thing. It should be led with leaders. They have to be showing that thing, sustained rigor, that is very important. And then personal change, focus on self reflection, right? And people have to talk about through stories, through mindset. And that's where sometimes these town hall meetings HR conducts, storytelling, fireside chats. There will be external speakers, especially women. Women's Day, we bring a lot of women speakers, achievers, accomplished people who can talk about stories, their own habits, and how they were able to influence, right? And then, so I will be talking on these 5 things today, and then we will have a quiz as well. Okay. So first habit is being respectful, right? It is about treat others how I want to be treated. What are the actionable, demonstrable behaviors we are looking at when it comes to being respectful? It's about how do we treat people with courtesy and fairness. One is about meeting and greeting, dear sir and madam and doc, whatever you're going to address. That is one part of it. There is other part of it. Sorry, please, thank you. There are few things, basic things, especially attitude of gratitude. And then how do we treat people with fairness, right? And then how do we, most important thing is to listen attentively. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard. I think this is, we have already talked to our own students how difficult that listening skills are, right? And include relevant stakeholders irrespective of their hierarchy in decision. So it is not that, somebody is a fresher, rookie, or a junior employee, right? Or a CEO, or it's about hierarchy. It's about, how do we take collective input? And sometimes we have to have difficult conversation. We have to have empathy more than the sympathy. For sometimes, these HRs will have conversation when the performance goes down. So be mindful that performance, maybe that person is going through some uh, personal situation or health, or could be so many today with COVID. There are so many things could happen, but understand from the other person's point of view with empathy. We cannot jump into conclusion, right? And there are some examples. Treat others with politeness, work positively as a team, treat everybody with fairness. I think we talked about it. Common courtesy and thing. Work as a team, not as an individual, and get team members' views. So this is very important. Is there anything we can add here? Anybody can give input to this? It'll be good. Being respectful. Again, it starts from our, like, the DNA starts from our parents, our family environment, our culture again, and then it rolls to schools and colleges and further to organizations. Anything we can add here? Being respectful. One of the strong habits that you know that leaders and team members have to demonstrate. Any any examples? Anything if you can think about it? Okay, I'll move to the next one. Next habit is about being responsive. Responsive is very important, about acknowledging, committing, and responding with whatever promises we have delivered. I think ma'am, in the anything she talked about, how do we be proactive? It's already seen here. How do we responsive? Show urgency when responding to our colleagues. Sometimes people might want data from you, some support from you, help from you. Look at how do we extend that support, right? Sometimes we may have to take decisions quickly. We cannot leave it for, it has to be, if it has to be very urgent, make that decision, informed decision, consulted decision, not randomly without discussing. Mm. And sometimes we have to own tough decisions and close issues with speeds. So this is something, being responsive, and a few examples here. For example, if we tell the customer we are going to deliver by 10 o'clock, whichever time, Pacific Standard, Australian Standard, or Indian Standard Time, ensure that we clearly articulate. And if we are done with any third party learning and development providers, trainers, if you have contracts, ensure it is all closure. Don't procrastinate, right? Any financial transaction like paying to customers, sorry, to vendors, third party contractors, right? To ensure that we do everything on being responsible on time and what sort of request. Communication is another important habit, right? Proactive, and sometimes we have to give difficult news as well. And from HR perspective, we are looking at how do we connect once a month, right? It could be informal. Today, there are with a COVID scenario, people are very creative, bringing the pets. Sometimes they bring their families, spouses, partners, and then communicating our priorities. We have our all hands meet, could be practice meet, our customer delivery. So transparency about failures and encourage risk taking. Communicate bad news promptly and seek help. So these are very, very important. Otherwise, people will live on the edge. They'll feel insecure, right? They will not know what's happening, right? So regular, and it has to be correct, courteous, again, communication as well, right? With clarity, and like I said, there might be positive or negative also, right? All interactions should be closed and not kept hanging. Sometimes if it's loosely, then very difficult to make sense, right? How do we leverage technology in terms of online video calls? Today it's so easy to connect, even interviews, anything, right? Mm. So the last few things is about stewardship, is how do we place the interests of organization ahead of everything? Business unit, take pride about organization, my team, my work to create a positive environment. give the best to other units. For sometimes what happens is we have extra resources or unfilled, unutilized. Why don't we use them? See, all this again said and done, it's very difficult. It's very easy in the PPT. I talk about it, but this has to be demonstrated. That is a tough thing. That is where the leader comes in, motivates people to contribute. Right? How do we embrace an organization? See, sometimes our personal views might be different, right? For example, now people are asking to come Mondays and Thursdays. Our leaders at Wipro, they're coming on Mondays and Thursdays. There might be some initial hesitancy to, because we all have families, there might be COVID situation, but organization thinks that being rusted, some element of wellness, connectivity, and leaders should show the example, show the way. So that is something organization has taken. The HR has taken the decision. So our personal views could be different, right? But we have to look at. So some of the examples here, again, being responsible in terms of delivering, planning, putting company ahead of us. Sometimes sacrifice is required. Sometimes we work on weekends. Then HR policy should be that there should be compensated. It's not that we need work-life balance. We have a lot of things to attend to: working mothers, parents, paternity, maternity leave. There are so many aspects here. But sometimes we have to go stretch a little bit beyond what is required in. Okay, so last one is about trust. How do I demonstrate high say do ratio? So trust my peers to do the right thing. No external failures, and coach me to set stretch goals and sincerely work to achieve them. So these are some of the things you have seen. And once you break the trust, it's very hard. You have seen whether it could be customers and our own customers. So ensure that we are openly talking. There could be problems, right? Without problem, no organization runs. Without problem, no education institution will be running. Everybody will have their own bit. But how do we now look at talking to everybody, making to do the right thing is what is very important. Mutual trust is what we are looking at. And then we have all mostly IT companies, they have their own quarterly, banks will have their own quarterly results, goals, achievements, right? So how do we encourage peers, partners, stakeholders, everybody in this? It's not just one person, everybody is involved here. And of course, there are certain times which has happened, breached trust, and people have taken quick actions. They have apologized. We could see big page advertisements come back and say, yes, it was a mistake, sincerely. Like today, I saw one of the senior citizen didn't have a wheelchair to go to check into the airport. It's a big news has come, and one of the airline has apologized, saying that it won't happen again. So that again gives that trust factor. Okay, so this is the nutshell in a summarized way. It's same thing talking about I've just put it in a column. It's about keeping client, keeping customers, keeping the calendar. If somebody is inviting you, ensure at least you do RSVP. If you are going for a private function, at least tell them we're coming or not coming, right? Don't leave it to the. So all this constitutes, how do we live the habits both in personal lives, professional lives? Okay, so last few more thing I will just cover. How do we apply regularly? It's about checking in, checking out, so that habit of sharing interesting articles, right? Lunch talks. Bring other people also. For example, doesn't have to be only academicians getting together. Bring somebody, industry, academia, or industry people should bring academia also. right? Or anybody, today we have diverse set of professions, people who are involved, and listen to them as well, right? How they, in their walks of life, in their organization, how they practice, right? And the last few things on leadership is definitely they have to lead the way, and the CEO of the organization definitely is the most important person, and we all look up to them. As a leader, what do I do? How do I work sincere, being embracing a growth mindset and space, very safe space. This is where very important, right, to embrace change. And what are some of the things I talked about? Town halls, all hands meet, some videos, and sometimes blogs. Encourage employees to write blogs, students to write blogs in their internship when they have gone and seen about the organization. One of the things is you can ask them to give an aspect of what are the culture, what are the habits, what are the values, what did they inculcate, some best practices they followed. Have a separate chapter, or when you're doing Viva external, you could ask on that also, or prepare them before when they go on internship. Tell them these are some of the other things also, should not just could be technology or it could be HR related function, but over and beyond some of the the DNA of the organization. So circle of trust is very important. How do we keep that few members, even 4 or 5 members? You should have. It's not about making group that you are say, always clingy into one group. It's about encouraging so that safe zone everybody practices in terms of certain times you'll see certain groups do very well in this because they live and breathe in that those sort of habits. And so this is something you can do also if you think you can change few things in this. When I say recruit others, it's within your own, include others. If you can do, maybe take 1 or 2 habits, just try it in your own colleges. See, there are few things. We can work together and I can provide that support, can reach out and then inculcate few habits. If it's not present, it's still better idea. If it is there, maybe you can enhance it with further other things as well, right? Are you just going to be a bystander watching entire thing, or you're going to let the bridge water flow under the bridge? Or are you going to be conforming, managing, or leading? These are some of the things we'll ask ourselves. We look at our own mirror and see what type of habits, good and bad, we have seen within ourselves, within groups, within functions, within leaders, within organizations, right? So this is about it. And any questions? Then we'll have one quiz also.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful sharing of experiences. So I request the participants, if there are any questions, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Sir, how we can differentiate tradition and culture in corporate field and industry across industry? Is there any need to differentiate this?
Sir, your voice is not clear, so there is a lot of disturbance. Please repeat the question. Behind, there
Yeah,
is a lot
I
of
will.
disturbance. Can you come to a secluded place? That will be fine.
Yes.
Sir, go ahead.
Anybody else has got? I think if I understood, Mayank sir, it's about how do we blend tradition and thing, right? The cultural traditional aspects. Is that the question?
Yes, sir. How we can differentiate tradition and culture in industry across the industry, and actually we need to differentiate or both are same.
No, it's a good, very good question you have asked. See, there are certain elements of tradition we still have to keep. For example, in our organization, for example, being ethical, right? It has been set up in 1945, right? That we are still following. It is not that just because we have started an IT company last 20 years, we have to be shown. So this, when Mr. Premji's his father, when he started the company in 1945 as edible oil company before the partition, then it was inculcated. His father kept that because I have heard from him saying that certain values are there, like I said, customer and being integrity, honesty was always part of the original traditional, right? You can call in terms of values or habits or whatever. So we are continuing on that. We are building on that. And today in the modern era is much more relevant, right? Whether we are working in government, whether we are working private or healthcare. So it has to be blended in. In case, I think there was some question before also, we can enhance it, right? Maybe not give a different meaning to it, but enhance it with further, with examples and statements. So we cannot forget the traditional values also, right? If you see some of the companies in Europe, they're already 200, 300, 400 years they've established, right? They still live up to their own vision, mission, but at the same time, they're adaptable for newer ideas, newer things, and also with the newer, if you see the millennials between 18 to 45, they constitute almost 70% of world's population. Among 88 billion, 70% fall between 18 to. So we have to start listening to them also. So certain things we may now people are looking at reducing carbon footprint, sustainability, reusing. So that is also another thing, companies have to start looking at. Yeah, I hope I answered, ma'am. Sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It means some new things adoption. We can say cultural development and tradition also.
Yes, it has to have a blend, definitely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other
Sir, what
questions?
what will be the organizational culture after lock? I mean, whether companies will allow work from home, work from office, or it will be a hybrid or blended culture? I mean, will you
Yes.
elaborate?
Yes, ma'am. See, there are many ways now we are looking at actually remote, hybrid, online. I think we all know the definition, but what people are looking at, we are looking at holistically. One is wellness is one aspect. The other thing is how much of thing, if it is continuously being online, that is another, then there will be disconnect. There won't be any social thing. So I think there's a lot of being studies being taken care. But in the short term, one was the vaccination was the biggest thing to roll out. Now we are looking at even booster shots, right? So I would say it will be a gradual thing. In some cases, it will be completely remote, right? We may not even see people coming back to offices anymore, because when things are working normal, without affecting productivity, without affecting anything, right? So they will not disturb that. So I'm not saying I will not know the percentage of that thing completely remote, but there is a opportunity. And that is why today, if you see, in fact, today, if you look at Times of India or Economic Times, even the freshers are demanding that. They're saying, you please allow me to work where I have to work, right? Gone are the days where we used to ask freshers, your job location is in Pune, Mumbai, or Chennai, Kolkata, or Hyderabad. Today, even freshers are, they say, yes, we will deliver, but we will deliver from where we would want to work, right? So we are open to that. We are listening. Otherwise, few years back, we will not even listen. We will just say, this is my way or highway. You take this or leave it, right? But today, organizations have changed their listening to the request because safety aspect as well. Because in some cases, they are the only child there to be with parents. We respect that. They have to look after their own people. Or if there is a displacement here, I think Bangalore, I've seen the first week of people didn't even have food. The PGs were closed, the restaurants were closed. Very sorry state, they all have. Then finally, everybody left thing. So we will be looking at each aspect. But for us, from Wipro point of view, the leaders, they've asked to come on a hybrid model, come on Mondays and Thursdays, and then slowly we might ramp up to other bands and other team members as well. But maybe till next, my reading, till from April 1st next year, we might see some few other movements. For now, uh, coming back, vaccination is one dependency. And then there is also holidays. If you see in IT world, we had a long weekend now, and in some cases there's a forced shutdown during Christmas, right? Because our customers don't work, so there's no point generating revenue, when we are not working for. So there is a forced shutdown happening for 2 weeks. Most of the IT companies, global MNCs. So again, there's no point asking families to relocate. Then there is, so we are looking at all aspects. Again, its best part is they're listening to the employees' concerns. That has really opened up. We have our own channels where we have surveys where we seek input, and based on that we make decisions. But we cannot compromise the health, wellness, safety aspects. That is first mandatory all organizations. In fact, we had a customer visit, first customer visit from US. Actually, they are partners. We went through RT-PCR report there. Everything we went by safety regulations, right? That is very, very important, keeping the safety aspect for everybody. Hope I answered, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Sir, during work from home, I
Mhm.
mean, do you see lack of communication happening in workplace?
See, to be honest, all depends on each of the projects. And if you see an agile scenario where you all aware of agile projects nowadays, where you have scrum masters and product owners, where you have stand-up meetings, right? Every team member has to get into the call first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock, 9:30, whatever scheduled time. In some cases, it could be geography related timing as well, for Australia, because they start very early, because if we are working in Australian shift, so there will be a stand-up call. So I am not seeing that much thing that it's a myth that there is lack of communication. But if you really look project by project basis, I think regular thing is happening with the two tools. We have collaborative tools. For example, if I have to pull in 4 people immediately, and we have a Microsoft Teams, just like us now today, we can pull in each other as and when required. We have video conferences. For example, I do campus interviews. I don't think so there been a big challenge. It's just a myth that lack of communication, or maybe initial days, yes, because when employees, in fact, 70 of our employees died during this COVID and their extended families. Very sad, but very tough times. Then we have to be empathetic. They would have been spending time in hospitals, logging in. I'm sure you have stories in our own families, right? Those were challenges before, but I don't think now it's much. Everybody knows. In fact, sometimes it's over communication also. People want to switch off. For example, they have meetings during lunch. We advise not to have meetings. Give some time. Sometimes some say, no, we need some time for cooking because I'm a bachelor spinster, or I may have to cook for my family. Give us some time. Don't keep meetings very early. Start meetings at 11 o'clock. And then there are certain times where we used to have meetings beyond 9 o'clock in the night. Then we said, no, there should be something. Last meeting is 7 o'clock. We have made some rules, regulations, policies. Otherwise, it will amount to harassment, and all this will happen. So now people are very clear. So I don't think it has got a adverse effect. In fact, on the contrary, a lot of people have got certification, self-development, and they're able to achieve more. I don't, yeah, unless it was difficult in the initial days. I agree. Yes, ma'am. Anything else? We will go for quiz now. So I'm going to start the quiz. Then we'll come back if there are any. I'm going to share now the quiz questions, and then we will go through each of them, and then we'll summarize with the answers as well. Are you able to see my?
No, sir, not yet.
Yeah. Just give a minute, please. I'm just having some issues. Yeah, are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So team participants can, when they respond, put the question number and your response, like Q1, Q2, like that. So the first question is, culture consists of shared beliefs and values that are established by leaders and then communicate.
Excuse me, sir. We have to
Yes.
put in because we don't have the writing chat. We don't have the chat box here.
Okay, then you can unmute, ma'am. No problem. You
Okay.
can unmute and give the answer. Yeah.
Q1 is true.
Okay. Anybody else can unmute and give? Culture consists of shared beliefs and values that are established by leaders, then communicated and reinforced through methods, ultimately shaping employee perception, behavior.
Exactly, sir.
It's true, sir.
It's the same. It's the
It's
definition
true.
of culture. Yes,
Yes,
sir. It's
very
true.
yes.
Sabia, it's true.
Yes, ma'am. I agree. Fundamental definition of that. Yes. Which of the following is an outcome of an ineffective culture?
Sub B.
Low profits, disengaged employees, high turnover, all of the above.
Sir, option B.
All of the
Okay.
It's
above.
B.
Should be
It's
D,
B,
sir. All
sir.
of the above.
It's B.
Okay. So I will park all this.
Sir,
We
it's
will.
B.
Okay. So we will come back and revisit with the answers as well. So park your responses. So some of us are telling all the above, some are saying about B, right? Okay. So question 3, positive organization culture is one that increases barriers to diversity, which may lead to institutionalized bias, builds on employee
D, sir.
weaknesses
It's
by
D.
emphasizing
Emphasize
and showing workers how they can capitalize on the
3D.
strength. Okay. Rewards more than it punishes by articulating praise and catching employees doing something right. Emphasize group vitality and growth by helping employees learn and grow in their jobs and careers.
It's D. D.
D. Okay. Any other
D is
response?
correct. D. D, sir.
Sir, D is correct. D, sir.
Okay.
Mine is also D.
Okay. So we will move to the next one. If the organization culture is valuable and rare, it can be a source of internal tensions, internal adaptations, Competitive advantage, competitive disadvantage.
Competitive advantage.
Advantage, sir. Advantage. It's competitive advantage.
Okay. That is C. Okay.
So it's B, internal adaptations. It can
Okay.
be a source of internal adaptations. So
Okay.
B.
So some have got a different perspective of your responses. So we will see, come back and summarize. So organization behavior is a humanistic approach, an interdisciplinary approach, total system approach, and all of the above.
All of
Of
these.
the
All
All
of
of the
them.
above. All of the above.
Okay. 6, state the key features of an organization. Very fundamental, any organization. What are they trying to do? Accomplishing goals, group efforts, social investment.
All of these.
All of the above. Sir, all of the above.
All of
60
these.
is all of the above.
D is the correct answer.
D, sir. Yes, sir. D.
Okay. 7, responsibility is being accountable for your actions, behavior, decisions, and all of the above.
all of the above.
All of the
All of
above.
the above.
D is the answer.
Actions, behavior, decisions, it include in this. Sir. Responsibility is being included. Everything is being included in this. All of the above, sir.
Okay. 8, trust is defined as the quality of being honest, being able to take someone for their word, freedom from deceit or fraud, assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something.
D.
D, sir, D.
D, sir.
D.
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 D. Assured reliance on the character, ability. Yes, sir. D is
D
the
is the
right
answer.
answer. Yes, sir. D is the answer.
Okay. So which of the following are important principles to consider when building trust in a business team? Establish and maintain integrity, communicate vision and values, consider all team members as equal partners. All of these answers are correct.
D again. It's 9D.
All of these are correct.
Okay. So the last question, yeah, which of the following does not describe team? Team trust is a collective choice of individuals willing to commit to a new shared way of working. Team trust is a choice that can be forced on individuals from the top of an organization. Team trust is rarely a part of successful teams. Team trust has no impact on how individuals perform their task at work.
Does not.
So this
Which of the following does not? Sir, please, could you?
Does not describe.
Does not describe a B, C, D. All three of them does not describe.
So it's a bit tricky here. You have to understand each of
It
them.
should be C, sir. C should be the
C,
option.
C, sir. C.
C.
Okay, good. I think
Team
you
trust is really a part of successful teams. Exactly, sir. C.
C answer.
good. I think we will now see the answers so that we will validate. Just give me a minute, please. Actually, I should have done in a different format because lack of time. I put it in the MCQ. It could have been in a Google Forms. Nowadays, students are very clever. They use Google Forms or that KBC type of. Okay, I'm going to share the answers. Are you able to see the screen? Which is
No, sir.
No, sir.
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think everybody got it right. All the answers. Congratulations. But we will still see if there is something one or two. So first one is yes, the definition itself is accurately expressed, and then all of you have given. Which of the following is an outcome of ineffective? So I think some of them had different queries, but it's important to understand an ineffective culture will have lower profits. Disengaged means the morale will be this one. Sometimes high turnover, all this will have a different effect. A positive organization is one that I think some of you talked about D, but the right answer is C. It is about rewarding. This is the HR core strength which comes here. Today's world, in fact, if you really see about millennials, they want instant gratification. Something we understood 5 years back, that we all waited for our own appraisals maybe twice a year, annual. But the millennials will not, they want a simple thumbs up. They will want to post it in LinkedIn, or so something we are working on, that how do we look at rewarding, catching people who are doing, praising them. And fourth one is, if the organization is valuable. So again, it's a competitive advantage. Most of you already talked about it. All of the above. Number 5, humanistic, interdisciplinary, total. State the key features of an organization. Mm, Again, here, all of the above. 7th one is all of the above, and 8th one is about, I think everybody got it right, about a reliance on the character. And the 9th one is looking at, again, all the answers are correct. The 10th one is about, yes, mostly everybody got it right here. In the last, people gave the right answer. It's about rarely. So this completes the quiz.
Is
And
related answer number 2.
sir, yes,
I,
ma'am.
my query is related to question number 2.
I'm just bringing that question. Yes. Yeah.
How come an ineffective culture leads to high turnover? I didn't get this.
Madam, it is employee turnover, madam. It is high employee turnover, number of people leaving the organizations.
Attrition.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good point. Maybe I should also keep it clear. I'll make a note. So it's about attrition. Yes. Thank you, sir. So thank you very much. I think if there are any questions from my organization point of view or from this subjects, I'm happy to share with what best of my knowledge. And again, this has to be, I would suggest, take it to the next level. Because as a FDP, I think you have gained the knowledge, but I would recommend you, we could take some additional sessions to the students, which is very important for them to ingrain, because they're going to step into larger global organizations, Indian-based companies, because we have to give that right from whether they're doing internship or project work. So these are some of the learning things we could accommodate. I'm sure you all are doing already, but you can even extend this topic. It's very valid governance. How do we set up the ethics? How do we set up the organization values, culture, habits, practicing them? Because finally, we have seen our own parents. I'm sure you can relate to your own parents. Some of them wonderfully spend time, decades and decades. You would also be wondering how my dad or mom, they were able to not only sustain living up to their principles, values. They must be, even my parents, they have contributed to the organization, right, wherever they have worked. And certain things, like the sir lastly asked, can we have blended? Yes, we should be also open for adoption. Change is another thing, because way things are changing, it's always continuous. How do we respond? So that is my last few statements. Thank you very much.
Sir, one query.
Yes,
how carrot and approach contribute to build organizational work culture, and the new approach, I mean, instead of carrot and stick approach, what is the new approach used in the corporates?
You are talking about how organizations are looking at the modern ways of, right, instead of giving disciplinary and other stuff, right? See, firstly, very important to set goals and objectives, right? If we make them understand why we are doing what we are doing, how we are doing, all the whys and how and all that. See, this is where the leaders, you see, so if somebody joins a new organization or new team or new customer as well. Sometimes we get a new customer. I think the first thing is we are all have to be in the same page. What is that we are trying to do? Outcome. Are we delivering this on a certain time frame, or are we doing any research? It could be anything, not necessarily delivery. So I think our own lessons plan, the everything, right? So all that has to be taken care, set the goals and objectives. This is the missing link in some cases I've seen. For example, people don't communicate, right? People don't communicate, in the beginning what they are supposed to do. So the first challenge is that, and then we also have to be transparent in terms of it could be progression, promotion, in terms of their performance. That's why we have quarterly reviews in large organization, multinational organizations as well. And it is not just lip service, it is there for documentation. Some leaders take it very, and it's good that, feedback is given also. It is not given on the end of the year where you're completing annual appraisal. So those are things. And now there are so many things. For example, I'm responsible of sending people on site. We are working with immigration now that countries have opened up. So there is request. We're going to do some on-site rotation. So this again will help arrest attrition, like we said, turnover, right? So we are going to give opportunities, including families. In some cases, if spouse is working, we are not going to poach anybody. But if your husband and wife or partners want to work in the same organization, we are encouraging that. So a lot of other HR initiatives are happening, and especially during HR pandemic, we have distributed laptops. I think we have procured more than 25,000 laptops. Believe it or not, there was so much demand. I think today, unfortunately, with Taiwanese factories got into fire, there's a crisis in the chip. Otherwise, we would have had enough laptops. So we gave laptop, desktop, dongles, everything, to make ensure that workplace they start liking it. In fact, ironically, before the pandemic, if you see our campuses, we actually designed for millennials only. The people who are younger generation who are going to come and work. It's like a informal setting. There's no cubicle. So all those things being done. Like I said, HR intervention, wellness. We have weekly yoga connects. There is leadership talks. Everything they're trying to do, at a
Sir,
function.
excuse me, sir. So what about the retention of employees in your organization? Because that's important and that's burning issue nowadays, that
Yes.
everybody wants to retain the talent. So what's your take on this? What's your
Yes.
company policy on?
It's a very tough thing we are going through. I must admit, if you have seen in paper, we have 30% attrition. And that means 1 in 3 not only has got one offer, that person has come with 3 to 4 offers. That is what we are trying to do our best to see whether we can give them further certification. For example, if they're in legacy, some technologies, we are trying to see if we can upskill them, giving cloud certification. See, we have spent $22 million, if you believe it or not, US dollars on training and certification only in cloud area, in our area where we work with Amazon, Google and Microsoft, IBM, SAP, this sort of cloud technology. $22 million we have spent on training. So we will, one is to bring, upskill them, ensure that we give the thing. And we also want to give most of the people leave, it's a wrong myth that they leave for money. Yes, money is one aspect, but some of them don't have challenging they get bored. They have been there for 5 years, 10 years in the same account. They're doing support projects. If you know, in IT world, at least there are two sets, support and development. So we are now looking at people who are interested to be, because support, it's about solving trouble tickets, service tickets, P1, P2, and you get bored within a week or two. Younger generation wants something exciting because they have peer pressure. Somebody is working in full stack Java, whereas I'm just working in some ERP which is not even heard, right? So we are looking at, or we can rotate between development, support to development. In some cases, we are giving, like I said, certifications, multiple certification, not just one. We enable them. Again, on-site rotation is another thing. Because the countries are opening up, so there are a lot of people are aspire, to get that on-site, being with the customer. That is another thing we are looking at. Of course, money aspect is there, but that's is never ending. Human greed we can go on, because some of them come to us with 100%. How can we match? In some cases, we have to let them go. It's not about, we cannot match 100%. Today, I'll be very honest, 2 years full stack person is getting 12 lakhs, right? See, we are not getting that much revenue from our customers. In fact, with all this COVID, some of our agreements, our pricing all changed because of the way things are, right? So it's sometimes we have to let them go. But more than that is the last thing we try and do. We speak to them, their career aspirations, and I think one or two interventions HR do, we'll convince them. We try our best. Yeah.
Sir, hello, sir. This is Shruti here. Sir,
Yes.
I don't have any doubts, but yeah, the way you covered the concepts, each individual concept, if we take like habits, communication, values, ethics, uh, seems to be very simple words, but a lot of, changes or maybe a lot of insights which you throwed on this, sir. Since we are into teaching, you just led us, maybe you just imparted us in such a way that actually, in fact, it differs from industry to teaching. But still, these insights, what you have given, maybe if we apply here, we can make the ready student or ready employable candidate to come to that industry. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for showing such an insight.
Thank you. See, that is where when I also coach and mentor students, some companies, Deloitte and large consulting organization, when they take people for on the human consulting, HCM practices, HR practices, especially if you go to Amazon, they take 6, 7 interviews. Whether you are a fresher or lateral doesn't matter, but they touch upon all this. That is what I'm trying to say. They'll touch upon, they will ask you, the candidate, you show me, demonstrate where you can see their definition of what. So I have seen, because I also take interest in students enablement. Dr. Rashmi knows I've been part of BEC Board of Studies, several colleges. So I make them prepare also, because there are certain behavioral type of questions are today's very, very been asked. And those things, the way because certain things, uh, even students struggle to explain also. We need to tell them what it means. So we have to ensure that they are industry ready, because the organization expects a lot nowadays. It's not like they throw freshers in the deep end, but it's all about how quickly you learn. The day one, demonstrate your integrity, come on time, discipline, be available. Sometimes very hard, even people not reachable over the phones, right? Whether it could be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, it's their personal time. I'm not saying that, but it's if sometimes the
That's
emergency.
committed there that they wouldn't be.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think it's very important for the students also to get this, impart this knowledge.
True, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir,
Dr. Rashmi. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
it work culture just want to know, when you are appointing the new generation, I mean millennium, what soft skills you find the students lacking in?
Yes, that is again, we sit today. What I will give you one of the few things away in this forum. We have even stopped asking technical questions because we know students, as they have passed aptitude, logical reasoning, numerical ability, then they have done 2 programs. And in our interviews, we are only looking at softer aspects, so types of like what I said, behavioral, situational analysis, communication skills, because what has happened is our customers are demanding. For example, why? Because the fresher engineers participates in customer meetings, that person is not able to explain, that person is not able to write emails. So the lot of emphasis is on, because customers, they have a lot of complaints, not our company, all companies, or maybe other companies too, saying that some of our engineers don't speak at all in the meetings, right? They are very quiet, shy, or they even small talk, hi, hello, before even the meeting starts. I know it's very hard over phones and remote, but still they're not able to explain the problems. So that's why one of our selection criteria, we give more of emphasis on communication. So those sort of aspects, we cannot compromise on that. See, I don't know whether in the past we used to have GD in the last. Right, nowadays we keep a group discussion in the beginning, at least for MBAs. Same thing, all not for technical, at least for MBAs. The reason is we want to not to eliminate quickly. Out of 10 we select 2. It's not about that. It's how we want to see the best, who are good in communication. Because this is where we are in a services organization, in some cases product also, and we are in touch. We have 1,200 customers. Each customer has got about 20-30 projects live, almost 6,000, 7,000 projects, and every project, millennials, freshers, they get involved, and some of them are very good. It is not that it's a myth that everybody. I've seen people, there are very good communicators. I have not had any issues so far, but there are certain people we need to bridge, and that is where I think most of the colleges are putting effort. I've seen already the placement officers take. Then there are things like Bullard's exam, business language, step plus, and then there is also IATs. If you encourage them to take exams now, later when they apply for immigration, if they go for work permit, this will be useful. So please encourage them to take those certification very early during the studies, or they can also start work and finish off those things. And it is not about English also. I think there is another myth. If you see in the world, only 130 countries speak English. Rest 90 odd countries or 70 countries don't speak at all. We still have to communicate. For example, in France, Japan, but the main thing is, in that case, can we do good slides? So for them, they don't need Word document. For a Japanese customer, so that's why I'm saying the MBA students should be able to do good presentation, very simple. Those sort of things we can coach them during the finishing school, at least in the final year, so that they're tuned to organization when they join.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And especially it's marketing, because even HRs also, because today one HR has to look after 1,200 employees on an average. That is in a global setup. It could be less. In startups, it could be even less. In large organization, it could be more. One HR is looking after 5,000 employees. That means the way that HR is to communicate, have meetings, convince people, they build the careers of employees.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Maybe adding on, sir, adding on to your words, maybe body language also matters a lot,
Yes,
non-verbal
yes.
communication.
Definitely. Non-verbal is very important. That's why especially with a large consulting organization like PwC, Deloitte, Accenture. The amount of interviews they do, 4 or 5 rounds, is because of this. There will be panel. Nowadays they started including psychologists also. That's what I heard. There will be tests, Myers-Briggs test. There are so many psychometric tests. Every aspect is being covered. Later on, you can always hone domain skills. You can teach programming skills. It's not a rocket science. Today, open source Python can be taught, learned beyond by a high school student. It doesn't have to be an engineering MBA student to learn. And advanced Excel can be learned by a commerce student or a graduate student. They don't have to be an MBA to do anything. So today, skill sets can be taught, but softer aspects, that takes some time, and that should be really given importance.
Yes.
So in the interest of time, I think we have to respect our other speaker, ma'am. So
yes,
11
yes.
o'clock.
So yeah, thank you very much, sir. Actually, MohanKumar sir is closely associated with us. He regularly conduct activities on corporate enablement and soft skills for our MBA students. And at present, we have another 2 programs also, that is on dining etiquettes for MBA graduates and training programs for non-teaching staff, administrative staff, lab assistants. So, sir, thank you very much. Whenever we invite you for any of the sessions, you wholeheartedly accept our invitation and give your best. And students really enjoy your sessions. And I hope the participants have also enjoyed your session and learned many things in a very simple. The content that you bring is very simple, but it will have a greater impact when we attend your sessions. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Thanks,
Sir, one more. Sir, could you share your PPTs with the madam so that we will distribute it to the message act?
He left, I guess. I'll send him message. Okay, participants, next we will have a short break.